Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the quick update over at the Bakhmut city, at the Bakhmut Front. And so latest update over at the Bakhmut Front, we have new updates, new information. The Russian forces have progressed after capturing of Berkhivske and Yakhidne. They have now moved. So there is a reservoir here. In case you cannot see, this is actually a reservoir, Berkhivske Reservoir. The Russian forces have attacked or moved towards this direction, and they continue to progress along the entire southern shore of the reservoir, and they entrench over here along this forest line. They also have moved along the farmlands, and they are moving towards Bohdanivka. So the front line currently, it looks like this, and this is actually also corroborated by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. SITREP first reported this, and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry actually reported this in their evening report. Bohdanivka, as you can see, is in this report. The link is Facebook because they did not post it on their Telegram channel. Both yesterday's evening and this morning's report, both they did not publish on the Telegram channel. So they just hide it within the Facebook. Don't know why they did that. Sometimes they do that. And on the Dubovo-Vasylivka situation, it's very interesting. DeepStateUA disputed, and they say that the information disseminated by some channels of the loss of Dubovo-Vasylivka is not true. So DeepStateUA is against that. Our original information comes from SITREP maps, and what happens is that Rybar actually corroborated SITREP maps information. Rybar actually said that Dubovo-Vasylivka has been captured by the Russian forces. So so this is interesting. So SITREP maps is a neutral source, and very interestingly is that sometimes it is the Ukrainians will corroborate his information first, sometimes it's the Russians. So we still have a dispute, which is why it's still a gray zone. Tentatively, the pro-Ukrainian side have not acknowledged the capture of Dubovo-Vasylivka. What we do know is that the Russians are already starting to push out. And at Yakhidne as well, they are also pushing out near at Yakhidne. So the northern situation is looking pretty not so good. And this is also kind of a surprise in the way how they are moving out. And so if you zoom out a bit, and we take a look at the strategic situation around Bakhmut city, with the Russians are pushing this direction towards Bohdanivka. They have moving out here. They kept going down Yakhidne and coming down here. The situation is a bit unusual, because I would expect them to actually cut the road here, so they should go down, but they didn't. So that's interesting. And the information about the Ukrainians blowing up the dam seems to be true. This reported by Rybar, but they say that the blowing of the dam is actually kind of pointless, because of how the water will actually just flow northward, flood this entire area here, and then they will flood southward, so by a little bit. So they say that it's not going to help the Ukrainians a lot, and this flooding will subside within a few days. But of course, a few days could be very useful, which means that the entire front line will be stagnant for a while. Otherwise, the fighting is also reported on the eastern side, on the southern side, and on the southwest part of Bakhmut city. There is some rumors from a pro-Ukrainian source, which is currently a secondary source. I'm still trying to verify if he is trustable. He reported a Ukrainian counteroffensive in the south, and also at Ivanivske. This is actually in contradiction to what SITREP maps is reporting, as well as what Rybar is reporting. SITREP maps reporting that the fighting is now in the south. The Russians have tried to go for Ivanivske again. Rybar reported similar things, but saying that the fighting comes from the southwest. And then there is reports of the Russians now pushing towards this region here again, the highway. However, Wargonzo reported that the Ukrainians actually counter-attack from Chasivya towards Klishchievka direction. So kind of a lot of conflicting information here and there. But generally, it's the Russians that is still ongoing, trying to do the massive pincer to encircle the entire Ukrainian forces here. But this move towards Bohdanivka is interesting, which means that they are not going to just cut it here. They're going to move, and then capture the forest area here, capture Kalinina, and then link up from this direction. And it does make sense because this is the area the Russian forces have some progress. And as I mentioned previously in the previous analysis report, that the Russians likely is going to come from this direction and then actually move upward and cut the road from here. So if they move in this direction, means that they can actually link up with the forces in this region, in this area here. So that makes sense in that sense. So which means that for the Russians to actually move this way is kind of pointless, because the Ukrainians can easily counterattack from the city itself, and give them a lot of trouble. Moving further away, yes, they will still attract forces from Chasivia attacking them, which is for sure, but they can actually link up with the southern force much more easier when they actually go in this direction. So that makes sense to me. So otherwise, yeah, this is the quick update, and I'll see you in the okay, let's talk about a bit further up in the north then. So the Russian forces also are continuing to progress at Zelenianske. They are reportedly fighting there, and Berkhivske. In this direction, it's likely they are still pushing, and there's no reports talking about Dubovo-Vasylivka. My assumption is that either the Russians are still pushing, or they are currently holding position. They don't want to overextend themselves. So no, because there is forest line around here, so it is very defendable for the Russians to be around here. So if we zoom in, you can see that this forest line can be very useful for defense, and which means that any Ukrainian forces trying to go from from the town going up, they will be in very exposed grounds, and they can be actually easily taken out by the defending Russian forces that is holding up in this forest area here. So yeah, what else can I talk about? Yeah, I think that's about it, I guess. In terms of the flooding wise, you can see this is actually the river, the original river without the dam. So once this one goes out, you can see that the water will actually flow in this way and flood northward. I have tried to look at the satellite imaging, but it's not so. There's a satellite that actually detects water. However, it's not very useful because in winter everywhere is snow. Everywhere is snow, and as a result, everything is water. So I can't really see the water that well, and but my assumption is that they will go up, and then the water will then flow downwards from this way. It will stop the Russians from progressing southward towards this Bakhmut version of the Azov style. So the Russians are likely to have to be trapped holding this line here. They currently will be trapped holding this line. However, this flooding into this region here, and it's not going to change much in terms of what is happening outside, because the Russians are likely to still continue to push in the outside region. So yeah, the pro-Russian source actually criticized the Ukrainians for blowing the dam, saying that they didn't really think carefully, and the blowing of the dam actually stranded Ukrainian forces. So the Ukrainian forces is actually holding this line, right? So that means there's definitely Ukrainian forces in this region holding the lines, the front line, and then the Ukrainians blow up this dam, and then the flooding goes towards the Ukrainian forces. Yeah. So this is why the pro-Russian source Rybar criticize this, because it's like you basically cause encirclement around your own troops, and yeah, they just don't really like this kind of thing. So anyway, yay, I passed 8 minutes. Actually, it's 10 minutes already. Yeah, I just thought, like, might as well make it longer. Okay, anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.